Hey guys, B.E.D Brewer here. Today we're going to make 2 yeast starters for an experiment we have coming up. Now there are some pros and cons with working with a yeast starter. The cons are of course that you have to plan out your brew day and it does take a little bit of extra time. The pros, however, you do get to prove your yeast, you do get immediate fermentation, and you get fast fermentation so you can go ahead and plan out how long it's going to take, or you know when you're going to be able to bottle. Now, one of the other things that you get if you don't use a starter is you get a reduced alcohol content. Now, for a long time that was my goal, but really now that I need to brew on a schedule, I need to go ahead and start back on these starters so that I can go ahead and know exactly how long I'm going to ferment. So one of the questions that you have is, of course, how many times can you reuse this yeast, or how many batches can you get? And the answer is it kind of depends. I get at least 8. But a lot of times what will happen is I will begin brewing a bunch of lagers and then I will switch over to ales for a year or two, and then I don't trust necessarily going back to that old yeast, so I just buy some new yeast and continue forward. So how we're going to do our starter is we're going to use 1 liter of water and we're going to use 1/2 cup of malt extract. You can use sugar if you want, but you will want to add nutrients because the entire point is to get our yeast populating and multiplying in a healthy way with a good cell structure so that they can live a good long life in our wort while it's converting it to beer. So the things we're going to need is some sanitizing solution, a funnel, the number of Erlenmeyer flasks of the vessels that you're going to go into. I'm going to need 2 starters, and some yeast to go ahead and get started. Our ingredients are going to be 1 liter of water and 1/2 cup of dry malt extract. Now this is when I'm going to go ahead and add in my malt extract. I want to do it before it gets to boiling because I don't want it to go immediately into the hot break. And then we are going to want to stir this up. You're going to want to stir this in to break it up because we are under high heat, so we don't want to burn any of the sugars because burnt sugars yeasts can't use, but we also don't want to scorch our pan. Now you can see how it's boiling right now. That is going to take it pretty much to our hot break, and we're going to need to turn the heat down at that point, just like when you're brewing beer. We're going to let it boil up, and then what we're going to do is cool the wort just like we would if we were going to go into a fermentation chamber, because we're using glassware and we don't want that heat shock to destroy our glassware. All right, so now that our timer is done, we're going to go ahead and turn off the flame. We're going to sanitize the lid. We're going to set it in here, and then we're going to set up a larger vessel with some ice water. Right, I have the ice, now I'm going to add some water. Put on my hot pads here. Probably going to need a little bit more water. And we're going to take our hot pan and put it inside of the cooling pan for the ice bath and shake it around just like we would give the ice bath, or just like we would do with the ice bath for the wort. Alright, and when our starting solution is the temperature that we want, this is now 63 degrees, which is really nice because my yeast is at 60. We take it out of the ice bath. Then we're going to get ready to put it into our flasks. All right, so now that our starter solution is the temperature that we want, we need to go ahead and completely sanitize our flasks and our funnel. Actually, I want to go this way first. Fill the small one first. our yeast. I don't want all of that sediment in there. And I want to use a paper towel as my stopper, so I'm going to go ahead and get it very moist. Set it over. And I'm going to use a rubber band to hold it. And I'm going to oxygenate. A lot of people will use a stir plate. You don't have to. It does make your life a lot easier. If you don't use a stir plate, you do have to go oxygenate this periodically, because it does require oxygen to go into multiplication. All right. Now you can also use a starting solution to capture yeast out of an unfermented beer. That will allow you to use their yeast in your next batch of beer if that's what you would like to do. Again, I don't want a lot of sediment in here. And again, same deal, paper towel, get it nice and wet with sanitizing solution. Cover our flask. Get it down with a rubber band. And agitate the solution to get some oxygen in there and get all of the yeast ready to rock and roll. And it's that easy. So if you enjoyed today's episode, or if you learned something, give me a thumbs up. And until next week, have a drink for me.